Picture this. It's July 4th, 1187. You're a knight in full armor, 60 pounds of steel and chainmail cooking you alive under a Middle Eastern sun that's hitting 110 degrees. You haven't had water in 24 hours, your horse is dying beneath you, and you're standing on a volcanic plateau called the Horns of Hattin, surrounded by 30,000 Muslim soldiers who've been setting the dry grass on fire around you. The smoke burns your lungs. You can't see 50 feet in any direction. Your lips are cracked and bleeding. Men around you are literally going insane from thirst. Some are trying to drink their own urine. Others are drinking horse blood. A few have simply taken off their helmets and are waiting to die. You look for your commanders, the men who led you here, who promised this would be a quick march to relieve a besieged castle. King Guy de Lusignan is somewhere in the smoke, probably praying. Raymond III of Tripoli, the most experienced military commander in the Crusader states, already fled the battlefield with his men, and Raymond de Chatillon, the psychopath whose raid started this whole mess, is about to get his head cut off personally by Saladin. 20,000 Crusaders marched out of camp 2 days ago, the largest Christian army ever assembled in the Holy Land. Knights, infantry, the true cross itself carried at the front, the actual wooden cross Jesus was crucified on, the holiest relic in Christendom. By sunset today, 10,000 of you will be dead, another 10,000 captured. The true cross will be taken by Muslim forces and paraded upside down through Damascus. And Jerusalem, the city Christians have held for 88 years, will fall within 3 months. This isn't just a battle, it's the apocalypse. And it happened because one man made a series of catastrophically stupid decisions that everyone told him would lead to disaster. If you want to hear how bad leadership and personal vendettas can destroy an entire kingdom, hit that subscribe button, because the Battle of Hattin is a masterclass in everything not to do. This is the story of the worst military disaster in Crusader history, and it starts, like most disasters, with someone who absolutely should not be in charge. Guy de Lusignan was not supposed to be king of Jerusalem. He was a French nobleman, minor nobility, not particularly wealthy or powerful. He came to the Crusader states looking for opportunity, and found it when he married Sibylla, the king's sister. That should have made him a prince consort at best. Instead, through a combination of political maneuvering, lucky deaths, and being in the right place when better candidates eliminated each other, Guy became king of Jerusalem in 1186. Everyone hated him, not because he was cruel or corrupt, because he was weak, indecisive, the kind of leader who could see every side of an argument and somehow choose the worst option every single time. Sound familiar? He was basically Pope Clement VII, but with a sword. The most powerful baron in the kingdom, Raymond III of Tripoli, openly despised Guy. Raymond was everything Guy wasn't: experienced military commander, respected by Muslims and Christians alike, politically savvy. Raymond believed Guy's kingship was illegitimate and said so publicly. This created a split in the Crusader leadership, right when they needed unity most, because Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria, the most capable Muslim leader in a century, was watching and waiting. Saladin had spent years consolidating power, unifying Muslim territories that had been fragmented for decades. Egypt, Damascus, Aleppo, Mosul, all under one banner now, one army, one purpose: reclaim Jerusalem. By 1187, Saladin commanded resources the Crusader states couldn't match. His army numbered around 30,000 professional soldiers. The entire military strength of the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem, maybe 20,000 total, including every knight, sergeant, and man-at-arms they could muster. The Crusaders had held the Holy Land through superior fortifications, internal Muslim divisions, and occasional brilliant tactics. Now the fortifications were aging, the Muslims were united, and the tactics were being run by an idiot. Enter Raymond de Chatillon, the man who actually destroyed everything. Raynald was a French knight who'd come to the Holy Land decades earlier and carved out a lordship in the Eastern Territories. He controlled Kerak Castle, a massive fortress that overlooked trade routes between Egypt and Damascus. This gave him the power to raid Muslim caravans, which he did enthusiastically and without authorization. In 1186, Saladin and King Guy agreed to a truce. No major military operations. Peace for a few years while both sides rebuilt. Raynald broke it immediately. He organized a raid on a Muslim caravan that included Saladin's own sister, captured her, ransomed her, and pocketed the money. Then he organized raids into Arabia itself, going after merchant caravans on the Hajj pilgrimage route. This wasn't just breaking the truce, this was an insult designed to provoke war. Saladin demanded Raynald be punished. Guy refused, or more accurately tried to refuse, but didn't have the authority to make Raynald do anything. Saladin declared the truce over. He would invade the Crusader states, destroy their army, and personally execute Raynald for his crimes. Raymond III of Tripoli saw this coming and did something controversial. He made a separate truce with Saladin. His territories in the north would be neutral. He wouldn't participate in any war. Was this pragmatic realism or outright treason? Historians still argue. Raymond claimed he was trying to preserve something when Guy's incompetence inevitably led to disaster. Guy's supporters claimed Raymond was a traitor who cared more about his own lands than the kingdom. Either way, the Crusader states were divided right when Saladin assembled his army for invasion. Spring 1187. Saladin crosses into Crusader territory with 30,000 men. His strategy is brilliant. Avoid the strong Crusader fortresses, hit soft targets, force Guy to come out and fight in the open, where superior Muslim numbers and mobility would dominate. First target? Tiberias, a town on the Sea of Galilee. It's not heavily defended. More importantly, it's ruled by Raymond III's wife, Eshiva of Bures. She's in the castle when Saladin's forces arrive and begin the siege. This puts Raymond in an impossible position. His wife is besieged. Honor demands he rescue her, but militarily, Tiberias isn't worth a major battle. The castle is strong enough to hold for weeks, and Saladin will get bored and leave if no army shows up to fight him. Guy assembles the army at Sephoria, a strong defensive position with plenty of water, about 20 miles from Tiberias. Every night, every soldier the kingdom can muster, around 20,000 men, including 1,200 heavy cavalry, the armoured knights who were the Crusaders' primary weapon. They bring the true cross. This is important. The true cross was believed to be a fragment of the actual cross from Calvary. It had been carried into every major Crusader battle since the First Crusade. Its presence meant God was watching. Losing it would be unthinkable. The war council meets. The question, should they march to relieve Tiberias? Raymond, whose wife is besieged, says no, absolutely not. It's a trap. Saladin wants them to march across 20 miles of waterless terrain in July. The route goes through barren hills, no springs, no wells. The army will be exhausted and dying of thirst before they even reach Tiberias, and Saladin's cavalry will harass them the entire way. My wife can hold the castle, Raymond says. Saladin will get bored and leave. If we march out there, we'll be destroyed. It's the right tactical advice. Everyone in the council knows it. Even Guy knows it. Then Raynald de Chatillon speaks up. He calls Raymond a coward, says he's making excuses because he's secretly allied with Saladin, questions his loyalty, his honour, his manhood. The other hot-headed nobles join in. Raymond's always been cautious, always advising restraint. Maybe he really is a traitor. Maybe he's trying to sabotage the kingdom. Guy wavers. He's weak. He hates confrontation. He wants everyone to agree. That night, Gerard de Riedefort, the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, visits Guy's tent privately. Gerard hates Raymond with pathological intensity over some personal slight from years ago. He tells Guy that marching to Tiberias is the only way to prove he's a real king, that Raymond is undermining his authority, that refusing to fight makes Guy look like a coward controlled by his barons. It's not military advice, it's psychological manipulation, but it works. July 3rd, dawn. Guy gives the order. The army will march to Tiberias. Raymond tries one more time to change his mind, explains again why this is suicide. Guy won't budge. The decision is made. 20,000 Crusaders march out of Sephoria, full armour, July heat, 20 miles across waterless terrain to reach an enemy army that outnumbers them and controls the high ground. The men are confident. They have the true cross. They have God on their side. They've beaten Muslim armies before. They have no idea they're marching to their deaths. The march starts well, relatively speaking. It's hot, but armies march in heat all the time. The men are disciplined. Knights ride in formation. Infantry keeps pace. The true cross is at the front, visible to everyone. Then the arrows start. Saladin doesn't need to stop the Crusaders, just slow them down, bleed them, make the march as agonizing as possible. Muslim mounted archers, light cavalry armed with composite bows, circle the Crusader column. They ride in close, fire volleys of arrows into the packed infantry, then retreat before the heavy knights can charge them. The arrows aren't particularly deadly. Most bounce off armour or shields, but they wound horses, kill unarmoured soldiers, and they slow the entire column down. The Crusaders can't do anything about it. Heavy cavalry in full armour can't catch light cavalry. If the knights charge, the archers just ride away, and the knights exhaust their horses chasing shadows. So the Crusaders march, and march, and march, under 110-degree sun, in 60 pounds of armour, being shot at constantly. No water. The route Guy chose goes nowhere near any springs or wells. The plan was to reach Tiberias in one day, resupply from the lake, then fight fresh the next morning. It doesn't work. By midday, the column is moving slower. Men are dropping from heat stroke. Horses are collapsing. The wounded from arrow hits are begging for water that doesn't exist. Guy realizes too late that they can't reach Tiberias before nightfall. The army needs to stop and rest, but there's nowhere to stop that has water. Late afternoon, the column reaches a plateau with 2 hills that look like horns, the horns of Hattin. It's volcanic rock, no vegetation, no water, but it has high ground, which means defensive advantage. Guy orders camp. They'll rest here, then push to Tiberias at dawn. Raymond rides up to Guy and says what everyone is thinking. If we stop here, we die here. There's no water. Saladin will surround us overnight. We need to push through to the lake now, even if we have to fight our way there. Guy refuses. The men need rest. They'll break through tomorrow. It's his last chance to avoid disaster. He chooses wrong. That night, Saladin's forces completely encircle the Crusader camp. 30,000 Muslim soldiers form a ring around the exhausted, thirsty Christian army. Then they set fire to the dry grass. The plateau is covered in scrub brush, all of it bone dry from summer heat. Saladin's men light fires upwind of the Crusader camp. The smoke rolls across the plateau, choking everyone, making it impossible to see. The Crusaders huddle together, coughing, trying to breathe through cloth. Some men try to sleep. Most just wait for dawn and pray. Morning comes. July 4th, 1187. The Crusaders are dying of thirst. Some men are hallucinating. Others have heat exhaustion so severe they can barely stand. The horses, the crucial war horses that make heavy cavalry effective, are in even worse shape. Many can't be ridden. Through the smoke, they can see Saladin's army, fresh, supplied, waiting. Raymond takes command of the vanguard. He's going to try to break through to the lake. If he can punch a hole in Saladin's lines, maybe the whole army can follow. He forms up his knights, maybe 200 heavy cavalry, the best he has. They lower their lances and charge. Saladin sees them coming. He orders his line to open. Just open. His troops part like a gate. Let the Crusader cavalry thunder through, then close the gap behind them. Raymond's charge accomplishes nothing. He's now outside the encirclement with 200 knights. The rest of the army is still trapped on the plateau. He could try to charge back through, lead his men back into the killing zone to die alongside their comrades. He doesn't. He keeps riding, flees the battlefield entirely with his remaining knights. Was it cowardice? Pragmatism? Despair? We don't know. Raymond's defenders say he realized the battle was lost and saw no point in throwing more lives away. His critics call him a traitor who abandoned his king and his kingdom in their darkest hour. Either way, he's gone. The most experienced military commander in the Crusader army just fled, and everyone still trapped on the plateau knows it. The main Crusader army is now surrounded, dying of thirst, and leaderless. Guy is still technically in command, but he has no idea what to do. The infantry breaks first. They can see the lake. The Sea of Galilee is maybe 2 miles away. Water, salvation. All they have to do is reach it. Thousands of foot soldiers abandon formation and run toward the lake. It's mass desertion, but nobody can stop them. Thirst has destroyed discipline. Saladin's cavalry lets them run, then surrounds them in smaller groups and massacres them. It's not even combat, it's slaughter. Men too weak to fight being cut down as they stumble toward water they'll never reach. The knights and remaining infantry pull back to the horns, the 2 hills at the center of the plateau. High ground. It's defensible. Maybe they can hold until... what? Reinforcements? There are no reinforcements. Water? There's no water. They're making their last stand because there's nowhere else to go. Saladin's forces advance methodically. They're not rushing. Why would they? The Crusaders can't escape, can't get water, can barely fight. The Muslim archers move into range and start shooting, volleys of arrows arcing into the packed Crusaders on the hills. The heavy armor protects the knights, but the horses have no armor. They go down screaming, trapping their riders under their weight. Knights in full plate armor can't get up on their own if knocked down. They need squires to help them, but the squires are dead or dying of thirst, so knights just lie there in 110-degree heat, in metal armor, slowly cooking. Some start removing their armor. It's suicide. Without armor, they're defenseless, but heat stroke is killing them faster than arrows. They choose the quick death. The fighting lasts for hours. Saladin isn't storming the position. He's letting the sun and thirst do the work. His forces maintain pressure, keep shooting, but don't commit to a costly assault. By afternoon, it's over. The Crusaders on the horns are too exhausted to fight. Most have thrown down their weapons. Some are unconscious. Others are openly weeping. King Guy's red tent, the command post, finally falls. Saladin's forces swarm the position. Guy is captured. So is the true cross, the holiest relic in Christendom, carried into battle for nearly a century, is now in Muslim hands. The battle is over. Now comes the aftermath. Saladin is a pragmatist. He doesn't slaughter the captured Crusaders wholesale. That would be wasteful. Most of the captured foot soldiers are offered a choice: convert to Islam or be enslaved. Many convert, not out of faith, out of survival. They're marched to Damascus and sold in slave markets. The captured knights are more valuable. Knights mean ransom. Saladin's army is expensive to maintain, and selling back noble prisoners is a lucrative business. Most captured knights are kept alive and ransomed to their families, unless you're Raymond de Tripoli. Saladin personally calls for Raymond to be brought before him, the man who broke the truce, who raided pilgrim caravans, who insulted Islam and Saladin personally. The contemporary accounts say Saladin offered Raymond water. This was significant. In medieval Islamic culture, offering someone food or drink meant you wouldn't kill them. Hospitality created obligation. Raymond refused the water, either from pride or because he knew what was coming. Saladin drew his sword and killed Raymond personally. One stroke, clean. It was the only execution Saladin personally performed that day, a specific, targeted revenge for specific crimes. King Guy watched this happen, expected he was next. Saladin looked at Guy and said, essentially, "I didn't offer you water. You're safe." Guy would be ransomed like any other noble prisoner. The true cross was taken to Damascus and paraded through the streets upside down as a symbol of Christian defeat. Its ultimate fate is unknown. Some accounts say it was buried, others that it was lost or destroyed. It never returned to Christian hands. The casualties from Hattin were catastrophic. Roughly 10,000 Crusaders killed, another 10,000 captured. Out of a starting force of 20,000, maybe 1,000 escaped. This included almost every military leader in the Crusader states, almost every knight, almost every professional soldier. The Kingdom of Jerusalem had no army left. Saladin knew this. Within days of Hattin, he began methodically capturing Crusader fortresses. Most surrendered immediately. They had no garrisons, no relief forces, no hope. Acre fell, Jaffa fell, Beirut fell. Dozens of castles and cities that had taken decades to conquer surrendered within weeks. On October 2nd, 1187, just 3 months after Hattin, Saladin's army appeared outside Jerusalem, the city that Crusaders had held for 88 years. The reason the Crusades existed, the spiritual center of Christianity. It had maybe 6,000 defenders, mostly civilians and whatever soldiers had survived Hattin. The walls were strong, but walls need men to defend them. Balian of Ibala, one of the few competent noble survivors, commanded the defense. He knew the city couldn't hold. He negotiated a surrender. Saladin would allow Christians to leave peacefully if they paid a ransom. Those who couldn't pay would be enslaved. Saladin agreed. It was a mercy. He could have stormed the city and massacred everyone under medieval siege law. Instead, he allowed a negotiated surrender. On October 2nd, 1187, Jerusalem fell to Muslim forces. The Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem, established with blood and faith in 1099, was effectively destroyed. A few coastal cities held out. Tyre remained in Christian hands, but the interior was gone. The dream was gone. Europe was horrified. The news reached the Pope in October. Pope Urban III reportedly died of shock when he heard Jerusalem had fallen. His successor, Gregory VIII, immediately called for a new crusade. This became the Third Crusade, the one with Richard the Lionheart, Philip II of France, and Frederick Barbarossa. They'd eventually recapture some coastal territory. They'd never retake Jerusalem. The Crusader states would limp along for another century, but they were never the same. Hattin broke them, permanently. What about the survivors? Raymond III of Tripoli, who fled the battlefield, died within months, possibly from illness, possibly from shame. His reputation never recovered. Some historians remember him as a pragmatic realist, others as a traitor who abandoned his king. Guy de Lusignan was ransomed after a year in captivity. He tried to reclaim his throne, but was rejected by what remained of the kingdom. He ended up ruling Cyprus, a consolation prize granted by Richard the Lionheart during the Third Crusade. He died in 1194, still claiming to be the rightful king of Jerusalem. Gerard de Riedefort, the Templar Grand Master who pushed Guy to march to Hattin, was also captured. He was ransomed and immediately rejoined the fighting. He died at the Siege of Acre in 1189, still trying to reclaim what was lost. Saladin became a legend. In the Muslim world, he was celebrated as the Sultan who reclaimed Jerusalem. In the Christian world, he was respected, even admired, for his chivalry and mercy. Medieval European writers portrayed him as a noble adversary, which was rare for the era. He died in 1193, just 6 years after Hattin. His empire fragmented almost immediately. His sons fought over his territories, and the Muslim unity that made Hattin possible collapsed within a generation, but the damage to the Crusader states was permanent. Hattin wasn't just a battle, it was a demonstration of how catastrophically bad leadership can destroy everything. Guy de Lusignan had every advantage: superior defensive positions, strong fortifications, advice from experienced commanders. He threw it away because he couldn't handle political pressure and personal insults. The march to Hattin was opposed by his best military commander. The decision to camp on waterless terrain was obviously suicidal. Every mistake was avoidable, and yet Guy made every single wrong choice because he was more concerned with looking strong than being effective. Modern militaries study Hattin as a case study in leadership failure. It's taught at war colleges as an example of what happens when political considerations override tactical reality. Some historians argue Guy was doomed regardless, that Saladin was going to invade eventually, and the Crusader states were too weak to resist. Maybe, but Hattin didn't have to be the apocalypse it became. If Guy had listened to Raymond, if he'd stayed at Sephoria and forced Saladin to attack fortified positions, if he'd retreated when the march became unsustainable, 10,000 men died because one man couldn't admit he was wrong. The true cross was lost because Guy valued his pride more than his kingdom. Jerusalem fell because a weak king surrounded himself with sycophants and ignored his wisest advisor. That's the real lesson of Hattin. Competent enemies are dangerous, but incompetent leaders are fatal. The Crusades continued for another century. More armies marched to the Holy Land, more battles were fought, more blood was spilled. But the dream died on July 4th, 1187, on a volcanic plateau in northern Israel. It died of thirst, it died of heat, it died of bad decisions made by men who should never have been in command. And 10,000 Crusaders died with it. If this deep dive into medieval military disaster resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more history's darkest moments. Let me know in the comments, what other catastrophic leadership failures should we cover? Guy de Lusignan marched 20,000 men across a desert because he was afraid of looking weak. By the time he realized his mistake, it was too late to save them. That's not tragedy, that's mathematics.